Good morning. Welcome to the FileMaker webinar. We're here to take your Sage mobile, turbocharge your Sage with FileMaker custom apps. I got with me today Ara from Red IT, and later on we're going to be having Joe come on from JAK Food Services to give you the actual customer story, that how they really transformed their business. So hopefully you can hear us okay, but if you are having issues, hopefully you can see the screen at least. You can go to help.citrus.com and go through to the Contact Us page and choose the option Unable to Join. So what's the key to making Sage fit perfectly? Well, we're finding out there that what's really draining the productivity of your business is duplicating entry, people going out doing some work and then coming back to some kind of central location, maybe the same employee or a different employee, double entry, double entering that data. That really then introduces some other issues around errors into rekeying that information. There's issues in outdated inventory amounts, for example, especially when it's mobile workers out there, and just incomplete customer data. It's a real issue. So we're finding that custom apps are the most commonly are the solution to fix these most common problems. So of course, up the top we have managing customers and clients and members. Of course, you have reports and analysis. That's an issue. Managing invoices, of course, a key part of the business, and having that around here. So how can we fix this? Well, let's start streamlining your business today. So after integrating Sage with custom apps, you'll have less of those, oh, I wish I did it that moments, and be on the path to making your business more profitable. So saying all that, I'd like to pass you over to Ara from Red IT. He's one of our Sage experts and also a FileMaker expert, of course, one of our main developers here in the UK. So I'd like to pass him over to you to give him a great presentation.
Thank you, Kieran, and morning, everybody. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the solution set from a business perspective rather than a technical perspective, but there will be the opportunity for you to give me some questions and answers at the end of the presentation. Now, Mobile to Sage is a set or suite of custom apps which allow you to mobilize the functionality that you would normally carry out in an office, and I'll cover some of those in a bit. First, a little bit about Red IT. Who are we? Well, we were established in '99 and we provide turnkey solutions. Our key focus is to do with mobile technologies and integration, and we cover pretty much all of the Sage product sets from Sage 1, Sage 50, 200, 500, 1000, and so on. Lots and lots of products. All of the key ones you can see on our Red IT video YouTube channel. So feel free to go and have a look at some of those. Now, experience has shown us that small and medium-sized organizations normally want their solutions to be, above all, simple, primarily because they don't have an IT infrastructure to support anything complex. As a result of that, the applications also need to be stable. They just need it to work. They don't want long implementation time, so it needs to be quick and easy to put up. But most importantly, SMEs, by their nature, change, and they need to be flexible to stay in business. Hence, whatever goes in needs to also be flexible. All of those play very nicely in the iOS, iPad, iPhone environment, because that platform is very easy for us to integrate to for doing day-to-day things, and I'll cover some of those in a second. So what about the mobile solutions that are already out there? Well, there's one massive flaw with those. Those apps only focus on their software developer's application. So, for example, the Sage apps work only with Sage. Furthermore, they assume you've got an internet connection. So if you work in a warehouse or if you work on the road whereby mobile connectivity may not be available, then you pretty much can't use their apps. The next thing is they only support the latest version of their application. So again, the problem with that is that there are lots of people who are using older versions of Sage, and if it ain't busted, don't fix it. You don't necessarily want to upgrade. Now, in your office, your Sage is only one part of your organization, and it only holds the financial information. You're going to have a hell of a lot of other data, which is key for the success of your business in other things like Excel, Access. You might even have a website that uses MySQL. So what we need is an ability to share that information to make decision making easier. Furthermore, with the solutions that you download from the software vendors, there is no opportunity for you to change that app. It is what it is, and you basically have to amend your business processes to fit in with the application rather than have it the other way around. Now, mobile to Sage is radically different to that. The entire provisor for this suite of products is that we basically want to take our office on the road. So what we want to do is not just share the Sage information, but also other information that we might have in our office. Now, that could be bog standard office documents in Excel, Word, Access, or whatever it is, but more likely things like pictures, PDF documents, and so on. And Mobile to Sage is a kind of a zero footprint application whereby it's a hosted solution, so you don't have to worry about installing anything or having servers or anything like that. And the key benefit of it is that it's cross-platform. So it works on a PC or a Mac or a browser, as well as an iPhone or an iPad, which I'm going to use in a second. It allows you to put data in and out of Sage. So pretty much all your day-to-day activities that you would do in the office in front of the Sage application, you can do from your mobile device. And as I mentioned, it works on any version of Sage based on obviously what functionality is available in that particular version. So what kind of solutions are there to think about? It's like a toolkit. So the first thing to note is that it's cross-platform. I've already mentioned that. Now, the beauty of that is you don't have to develop it 3 times just because you want to use it on an iPhone, an iPad, a PC, and a Mac. It's only done once. So when customers ask us to tweak a particular solution, it then becomes available on all the platforms immediately. It provides some game-changing features. So, for example, it has full security. So you can decide what users can see. You can decide whether it's read-only, or you can decide whether they can actually change it. The overriding single benefit is that you get a single interface for all your data. So normally what happens is as SMEs grow, they buy more and more software. So for example, if they want to share some information to do with their customer relationship, they buy a CRM application. They then end up with a whole load of paper. They then buy a document management system. So before you know it, you end up with a CRM application, you have a document management system, you have a Sage system, but guess what? You still have your filing system in your office, so you'll still have folders with bits and pieces in it. Mobile to Sage removes all of that, and for basic requirements, it can actually handle pretty much everything you might want to do from a CRM or a document management system amalgamated within Sage, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. Now, because we're using iPhones and iPads, we can use all the facilities that those pieces of hardware allow us to use. So not only can we use a web interface, but an iPhone and iPad can easily use photos. So people use photos for social media, but guess what? The cameras are now good enough to be able to do barcode scanning. And that's what I'm going to be demonstrating later on in a second, the ability to barcode scan things straight into Sage without the use of, dedicated barcode scanners. With iPhone and iPads, you can then do things like signatures as well, things like proof of delivery, and also things like GPS positioning. So for example, if you want to keep a track of where your engineers are or where your assets are, the iPhone and the iPad are ideal for that. Furthermore, using the FileMaker platform, Mobile Sage has been built to allow you to carry out all of these tasks either with or without an internet connection. So what kind of apps can I go and play with? Well, most of those are actually released on our website, and the demo today is going to be using one of the ones that are already released. But one of the key ones are barcode scanning, which is normally one of the key solutions that growing companies want to utilize, but there's a barrier to entry to do with hardware and costs and so on. Now you can get into that just using an iPhone or an iPad. Other things like requisition, so you can create an requisition and have it authorized remotely on an iPhone or an iPad by your manager. Engineers on the road. Food traceability is quite a key one. Again, this will come out in the barcode scanning demo I'll do in a second. Obviously, Stage 50 doesn't have any batch traceability or serial number tracking, but we can implement that pretty easily with mobile to Sage, and we'll have a look at that in a second. And a whole load of other solutions, including expenses and timesheets and so on. So with that, what I'd like to do is introduce Joe, who is a user of Mobile to Sage, and he will tell us a little bit about his business and how he has used the solution set. Okay, Joe, are you there with us?
Morning.
Good morning, Joe. How are you doing?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Right, so Joe was kind enough to contact us about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and JAK Food Services are one of the largest processors of chickens. So perhaps, Joe, you could do us a favour and just tell us a little bit about how you used to run the business.
Yeah, so before I met Ara and Red IT, we were very old-fashioned in the way we used to process orders and capture data and things. It was all done via paper. And then we, for example, so when we take orders, the phone would ring. My father, the managing director, he would take the order, or one of the sales ladies, then copy that order down onto a production sheet. And that production sheet would literally be ferried into the production room and then further processed down the line. By also capturing all the traceability data, was all done manually by hand. There was often quite a few mistakes, and then coming on to the Sage side of things, when the girls would key in the orders, you would have spelling mistakes because it was all manually done. They would read the orders wrong, and there was quite a lot of inefficiencies, to be honest.
And what kind of volumes were you processing on a kind of monthly basis, Joe?
Well, we're currently calculating, we're scanning about 20,000 boxes a month.
And how much time do you think that's now saving you using the iPads?
Oh, huge amounts of time. Because where before, we're actually QR coding through an Avery Barcall scale system at the moment. Beforehand, they were manually thermo printed labels that would then on dispatch have to be manually recorded with the traceability information, and it was very time consuming to do it all manually by hand. And respective to the invoicing as well, we were manually writing out the customer addresses, product descriptions, pricing, everything was done by hand, which now with this system, it's fantastic, saves huge amounts of time.
In terms of batch traceability and so on, that's obviously one of the legal requirements for people in the food sector. How did you used to do it historically if you had to do a product recall?
Well, beforehand, on arrival of goods, we then issue that delivery with an internal batch number, which then would have to be identified on all the boxes. That would then follow through production, and then this would have to be manually keyed in onto these label printing, and then it would also then on dispatch it would also be manually recorded. Each box has separate batches with the date information, and all of this data was all written down in hundreds and hundreds of sheets of paper. Right.
And in terms of usability and user acceptance and just getting up and running with the system and things, what was your experience with that?
It's been fantastic. As you know, Ara, I'm always singing your praises.
The checks are in the
You're,
post, Joe.
that's it. Yeah, maybe a refund on next year's. But yeah, it's been very good. We've been able to really tailor our own requirements with the system. There's been a few special requirements that we needed that were very easy to change. Quite often, we wanted to adjust some of the layouts on the advanced shipping notes and the invoices, and that was done within minutes with Ara. So very, very flexible.
And have you found the things like the speed of the system and so on, as you know, with the volume, you know, the pretty decent volumes, 20,000 a month. Have you encountered any major issues or anything like that?
No, not with system side. The QR printing, sometimes if your print head isn't clean, just practical problems like that do occur sometimes, but they're not a big issue. You can, you know, relabel a box and then scan it through. So it's much easier now than it has been.
And what have you got planned in terms of future growth and stuff, or should I not ask myself to dig yourself a hole?
I'm sure I can give you a list of things to do, Ara. We're always keeping you busy.
You certainly are. Right, that's
Sorry, I was just going to say we're just improving the sales processing part of the iPad system. That's our next step. And we've also got the desktop version of the FileMaker Pro, which is a little bit more user friendly for the order taking side.
Yeah, we've got lots of plans for expansion. The good news is the toolkit has got lots and lots of capabilities, so it's nice for it to be challenged. But we've got plenty of scope for growth as and when you need it, sir.
Lovely.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much for that, Joe. Much appreciated. If you could do me a favor and hang on just in case there's some QAs at the end of the presentation, that'd be great.
Of course, no problem.
Right, so back to my presentation, and we'll dive into the demo in a second. Okay, so what am I going to do in the live demo? So I'm going to pretend that we have a Sage system sitting in the accounts department in London. And I'm going to remote into that machine so we can see the Sage data. But that being in the office, I'm also going to have a file system. So in the file system, I'm going to have a whole load of PDFs to do with invoices that I've raised out of Sage. I'm going to have a whole load of price list contracts. I'm going to have pictures of stock items, which, do you know what? It'd be nice to be able to see those along with some of the documentation. And that's not always the easiest thing to do in Sage. And finally, I've got an incredibly simple system in the office. When a customer phones in, I have an Excel spreadsheet whereby I make a note of the call and also what the query was about and also who it's been assigned to and what's the status of that call. Really, really simple. And under normal circumstances, that would be classified as customer relationship management. And before you know it, you'd have to buy a CRM application. But what I've done is, in this scenario, I've said, well, hang on, I actually want to share that information with my mobile user who could be either a salesman on the road, or it might actually be someone in the warehouse working up in Northampton, picking and packing and shipping the stuff. Doesn't really matter. The principle is I want to take my Sage data, all my PDFs, all my pictures, all my Excel spreadsheets, and share that with my stakeholders, be it a customer, a supplier, a shareholder, or an employee. What I'm going to do is I'm going to launch the application from an iPad in a second, and I'm going to manually just put in a sales order. Very simple. But then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the iPad's camera to produce a product invoice by just scanning the barcodes. Now, this stuff is all released to you on our website, so just to Red IT and Mobile to Sage. So let's just jump in and have a look at that together. So we'll just switch the presentation over in a second. Right, so First thing we've got here is on the right left-hand side, I've got my office presentation. So this is me in the office, and that's my file system. So you can see I've got my stock images, I've got all the PDF invoices that I've generated out of Sage, I've got all my price lists, and here is that famous Excel spreadsheet which has got all my customer information in it. So that's my business documentation. From a financial perspective, this is bog standard Sage 50, and it works on Sage 50C and all the old versions from 2009 upwards, and I've got normal customers and suppliers and sales orders and product invoices. So if I now switch over to my iPad, which is over here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to open up my Safari. Oh, before I do that, I have the FileMaker Go application, which is a free download from the App Store, but we'll cover that in a second. So I'm just going to go in here, and I'm going to put in mobile to Sage. And there we are, Red IT Solutions at the very top. So I'll just go into that. And that's a landing page for the application set. It just shows you some of the key features of mobile to Sage. Very easy for you to ask to be contacted back. And here's the section for turbocharging Sage that we're looking at today. There's a very, very informative ebook that's been produced by Apple FileMaker that's in the bottom left there. You might want to go and have a look at, which has pretty much all of the information that's been covered today. The next thing is to run the solution set. Depends on what device you're using. So for example, if you're using an iPad or an iPhone, which is what I'm doing today, you need to have the FileMaker Go solution downloaded from the App Store. Or alternatively, if you want to use a PC or a Mac, then what you can do is download the Pro desktop version from the FileMaker website. And there's a free trial for that as well. Very, very easy. So the next thing you need to do is just choose the solution set you want to test. So for today, I'm going to be using the scanning solution. So if I click onto the scanning solution, that'll start the app in a second. Before I do that, what I've done is I've taken the Sage data and I've created something called a product catalog in the bottom right. So if I open that up, you can see what that's all about. So basically, it's all of the Sage products with a nice little picture on it. But I've enhanced the Sage functionality by saying, do you know what? In the QR code, I can hold an awful lot of data. So I can hold batch information, I can hold quantity or weight, use by date, which is obviously critical in things like the food industry, for example, where you need to do traceability, but in other industries too. And all of that information gets consolidated into this little QR code, which is that two-dimensional barcode in the bottom right-hand side. And this is what I'm going to be able to use for scanning in a second for my presentation, but I've left it on there for you in case you want to download it and have a play with it yourself. So let's go and start the application up. So what I'll do is I'll click onto the top one, which is mobile to Sage scanning. And it then downloads a launcher file and it says, well, how do you want me to run this thing? And because I'm on an iPhone or an iPad, I want to use the FileMaker Go app, please, which is a free download. And off it goes, and it starts the application up, and it comes out and says, okay, who are you? So this is the first level of security. And depending on who I log in with, I get access to various different features. So I'm going to log in with a user called Demo, and the password is Demo123, in case you decide to play with this yourself. And off it goes. So, as you can see, that is currently empty. There are no records in there at all for details or departments or projects or anything like that. That's because I haven't shared any yet. So this is how easy it is to do. So here on my Office PC, I've downloaded FileMaker Pro. Here's the data, and all I need to do is press one button. And what that will do is it will then go through the data that we've just looked at. So it's now gone and picked up the Sage information about the company, about the departments, projects, if you're using those in Sage 50, the nominal codes and balances. And here is where I start consolidating data together. So I've got the stock information, but look, I've started adding pictures to it very easily. Customers and balances to find out whether I should be trading with them. Suppliers. And now I'm going to take some information from the file system. So here are all of the invoices that I've raised, for example, in PDF format. And here is the Excel spreadsheet with all the calls that I've had from my various different customers. And now all the Sage and Office data has been successfully updated. And as soon as I do that, then all the data then becomes immediately available on my iPad. So there are the departments, there are the projects, nominals, stock, with all the pictures, which we're going to have a look at in a second, customers, and so on. So what we're going to do now is just assume we're a mobile user, and I'm going to just do the rest of the transactions using my iPad. So I'm going to just go to the customer data. So over here, I've brought in the Sage information, and I can see here, these are all the calls from all of my customers. But what I'm interested in is I'm going to go and see A1 Design, and I want to see what the status is with them. So I'll go into the customer tab. Here's A1 Design. And over here, I can see the calls tab. And there we are. These are all the calls that they've made, and that's what the status is. And I've got the ability to press the I button to bring up any further information. And all of this is customizable depending on obviously what your Excel spreadsheet is or your Access database or anything else. So this is just a demonstrator in effect. But because I'm in this customer record, I can immediately see their price list contract. Again, bang, it pops up and it's putting it right there in front of me where I need it. And finally, I might want to have a look at all the invoices that I've sent out to them. So here are all the invoices, and again, I can press onto the button there and just look at the invoices that have been sent. So now let's say I'm sitting with a customer and he wants to place a sales order. So I'll just go to the sales order tab, and these are the ones that I've historically done with him. And it's now 9:41, so I'll tell you what I'll do is I'm going to put in 10:42, because I've got 10:41 already. And I'll say Ara 10:41, so that's the reference, it's today's date, and I'm going to have some boards. I'm going to have 10 of those at $5, and he wants those boards in black. But he actually wants 3 lines or 2 lines of that, so what I can do is I can just take this lot and I can just duplicate it, and he wants some black ones and he wants some blue ones. There you go, that's done and dusted. That's a 2-line sales order that's just been taken on my iPad. And in a minute, we'll go and import that into Sage. So that's the normal way of doing it, where you just go and pick up the product, put a price in, the quantity, and off you go. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it slightly differently. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scan that in using the camera on the iPad. Again, I've got my customer list in front of me, and I can press the I in the top left. I see the details of their price list, details of the customer, details of their calls, so it's very, very flexible. But now I'm going to press the top right-hand side where there's a plus button. I'm just going to go and scan a few product invoices. Now, what I've done is I've set this up in kind of EPOS mode, whereby it will just look for the next barcode scan. Obviously, these barcodes would be stuck on the back of products that you'll then just, scan individually on a pallet or whatever. So if I press the barcode scan, it then picks that up, picks the next one up, picks the next one up, picks the next one up. I'll just keep going like that. So I'm just adding, 10 or 15 products on there. I'll just finish that off. So there you go. So I've just put a 2, 4, 6, 7-line order in seconds. And the way this has been set up is so that I'm sitting with a customer. He then wants an order acknowledgement. So I can press the single button at the top, which is the email icon. And what that will do is it will take that information and it'll say, okay, fine. So I'm going to send him a PDF. Who do you want me to send it to? So I'll just put in the email address. And obviously it's picked up the second one from the customer record, but I've made it flexible enough to add that in. And what I'll do is I'll say okay to that. And there we go. That's the PDF being sent to the customer. And in a second, what we'll do is we'll just jump over to the PC record and have a look at that as well. A couple of other things that are available to us is batch traceability. So let's say I'm on the shop floor, or I've had some queries about a particular product. What I can do is have a look at all the products that I've ever scanned, and it'll go off and bring everything back for me. But then I can very easily then pick up a particular thing. So for example, I'm interested in books. I can just say, right, go and find me all the things that are to do with books 003. And so there's a problem particularly with that particular product. So I can see immediately I've had 21 dispatches of that particular product. I can immediately see who they've gone to, when they went, how many they had. And again, what I can do is use that for further analysis or product recalls or anything like that. So let's go over to the Sage site and see what we can do with the data that I've just captured on my mobile device out in the field. So there we are. If I go to the customer record on A1D and look at the sales orders, I can see that is immediately available to me. So there's no importing, exporting. Because it's a hosted solution, everybody shares the same data set. So it's immediately available. Furthermore, I've also got some scanned invoices here. So at the bottom here, so let's go down a bit to see some of those coming through. There you go. So all the red ones are the ones that we haven't actually processed yet. So let's go and do that. So let's do the sales orders first. Now the last sales order number was 10. So all I do is just literally press one button and it'll then import that 2-line order into Sage. And if I go and have a look at that in Sage and restart it, there's number 11. Open that up. So those are the bog standard sales order lines. But guess what? I've now got a whole load of other information like blue and black, which is what I put onto the sales order. Dead easy. Now, the important one is actually the scanned invoices. So these have got extra information in them to do with the barcodes that were scanned. So let's do that. So let's have a look at the last product invoice number. That was 121. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to say import to Sage. Off it goes, and all of those product invoices have just been imported into Sage immediately. So let's go and refresh that. 122. And now if I open that up, I've got all the lines for the scanned items, but most importantly, those have now been enhanced with batch information, dispatch information, who the user bars, when the use by date is, the full barcode that was in the QR code. And now that it's in Sage, I can just literally press one button and email that out. Bog standard Sage functionality. I haven't had to key anything in. I've just scanned a few barcodes and it's gone through. If I now go into Sage, into my inbox, we'll have a look at some of the things that will come through. So for example, that was the order acknowledgement that we sent through from the barcode showing me all the things that have been scanned. And there is the invoice that I've just produced in Sage with full details of barcodes and traceability embedded within the invoice. So dead easy. Right, that's it. That's pretty much the end of the demo. So let's go back to the PowerPoint and we'll just cover some points off there. So, key benefits. Really quick and easy to set up. All you need is the FileMaker Pro app on your machine with Sage on it. The users can then be sent or emailed a link to start the application up from their iPhones or iPads. It's very cost effective. There's a free trial on the website. It works on any version of Sage, so you don't need to upgrade. You don't need to take out any other subscriptions for some of the newer offerings that are out there. You can share your data securely with your staff, with your customers, suppliers, in fact, anybody in your supply chain. So what you might decide to do is just have your product catalog as a nice little custom app, which you then give away for free to all your customers. And instead of them placing orders via email or via phone or whatever it is, they can just open up the app in their iPad, press a few buttons, place their own orders, and then you can then just automatically import that into Sage. But most importantly, you can start scanning today without any expensive hardware, literally by the use of just an iPhone or an iPad. So what do I do next? Well, lots of free trials. Have a look at the Red IT video channel for some solutions that we've already prototyped out there for you to see. And it is incredibly easy to create new prototypes or add extra functionality. So please feel free to email me if you need something slightly different, and I'll be more than happy to investigate that further with you. And now over to Q&A.
So thank you, Ara, for that. If you've used GoToMeeting before, you'll know that there's a questions panel on the side. So hopefully, if you've gone in there, we'll just have a look and see if we've got any questions, and we'll try and answer those for you. So we've got one question here. I'll just pass on to Ara once I've read it out. So can I take my current CRM custom app and integrate the Sage integration part of it, i.e. without using all of the other CRM stuff? So can I take something that I've built in FileMaker, how do I integrate Sage into it, I think is the summarize.
Good question. The answer to that question is yes. CRM is actually a very interesting topic in itself because no two companies will run their CRM customer relationship journey in the same way. So in order to integrate that with Sage, the mobile to Sage platform, the way we've developed it with FileMaker, it allows you to utilize your Sage data in both directions. So if you've got a custom app which has been developed in the same infrastructure, then yes, the likelihood is we'll be able to do that, and would welcome the opportunity of just looking at what you want and maybe prototyping that with you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Ara. Okay, so I think, oh no, sorry, I was just about to say, so thank you, James, for that question. We've got one other question, and we'll answer that. So just as a reminder, if you want to ask a question, go to the GoToMeeting control panel under questions and type any question there. So I'm just going to pass on to Ara again. So a question from Karen here. Does this integrate with Sage Live?
Thank you, Karen. Yes, for those who are not familiar with the various different offerings with Sage, there are two relatively new offerings. One is called Sage 1, and the other is called Sage Live. These are the two solution sets that are pretty much browser-based. So the idea there is, whereas all of the Sage 50, Sage 200, Sage 500, the larger product sets are desktop solutions, Sage 1 and Sage Live are the web offerings, browser-based offerings from Sage. The Sage Live scenario has been built on the Amazon marketplace, and the Sage 1 scenario has been built directly and hosted with Sage. I was at Sage Summit with FileMaker last week looking at the latest announcements out of Sage, and the short answer to that is we're waiting for the Sage Live connectors, if you like, to mature and be released. We already have the Sage 1 integration in place, and we've been told by Sage that the integration strategy for Sage 1 and Sage Live will be similar. So depending on market demand, then there is no problem in using the mobile to Sage solution set with any of the Sage offerings. It's a commercial decision rather than a technical one. You know, we started all of this with the larger product sets. There was a big demand for Sage 50, so we provided the solution set for Sage 50, but also now with Sage 1, I think they've got something in the region of over 500,000 users on that worldwide. And again, the mobile to Sage solution set will allow them to allow users to use offline solutions using the iPad platform and integrate that seamlessly into Sage 1. And there's a YouTube video for that. So if you're interested, then you can just go and have a look at that. Oh, we've got another question from Johnny. Does this use Sage's RESTful API? That's a techie question. So for those out there who aren't familiar with what RESTful APIs are, basically there are a set of tools that the software developer, in this case Sage, releases to say developers like us can then connect with those their application, whether it's Sage or Google or Dropbox or whatever. So the question is, does it work with the RESTful APIs? The answer to your question is yes. But the RESTful API obviously caters for the Sage element of what I've shown you. For all the other stuff that you might have in your offices to do with the non-Sage elements, all the pictures and all the PDFs and stuff like that, the FileMaker platform is the key integration tool, really, because what that is, it's agnostic of whether you're using Sage or anything else. So in this particular case, the way to look at it is I've used the mobile to Sage umbrella to pull together Excel information, JPEG picture information, PDF contract information, as well as Sage data. So that's what that's all about. Next, we've got another question. Thanks very much, Karen. I'm glad the question was answered to your satisfaction. I've got another question here from James Harmer. Are QR codes rugged? What happens if you lose a corner of it? Can it still be read? Now, interesting question that. Our solution sets in the barcode scenario, barcodes are just basically a font. So what you would normally do is go and type in a product code ABC001. All a barcode does is it shows it to you in a picture format rather than human legible format. The normal barcodes that we've grown used to on the back of cans of Coke and what have you that you see in a supermarket, they're just two-dimensional or one-dimensional. They just literally are thicknesses of lines which represent zeros and ones and so on. A QR code is two-dimensional, so it's got a height and a depth, and depending on how big that is, you can hold an awful lot more data in it. However, you do need to have the three corners to specify the orientation of the data so that when you look at it and try and read that QR code, it then says, you know what, yeah, I can see it's there, I'm not missing bits. So yes, the QR code does need to be legible in order for that to work, but my experience has shown me that the QR codes have actually have had a much more rugged and better result set than the normal two-dimensional ones. So, for example, if you if you scan it, for example, or if you print it, print an old one-dimensional barcode, the scanner struggles seeing it because you get bleeding on the barcode, so it isn't very easily read. The other benefit of the QR code is that when you scan a QR code, it doesn't care whether it's upside down, left to right, or whatever, because it then picks it up. It knows what those three corners are, and as a result of which, it then allows the system to interpret the data a lot easier. Right. Looks as if that's it for now. I don't think I've missed any other questions. Now, if there are any questions that crop up or whatever, so please feel free to drop me an email, and I can go through it with you offline or via email. You're welcome, James. Not a problem. I'll hand over to Kieran.
Thank you, Ara. Yeah, that was very interesting about the QR codes. I learned something then. So I hope you all enjoyed that. Thanks a lot for joining us. And like Ara says, please reach out to him if you've got any other questions. And I wish you a very good day. Thank you.